I welcome you all to the celebration of National Technology Day. National Technology Day is celebrated every year on May 11 to highlight the achievement of our engineers and scientists in the field of science and technology. This day marks the anniversary of Pokhran test of 1998. The tests were led by aerospace engineer and late President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. This year, the theme of National Technology Day is Science and Technology for a Sustainable Future, and it holds a special significance during these ongoing COVID pandemic times. Modern technologies have emerged as a key to saving human lives through inventing COVID-19 vaccine. Today, to celebrate this day, we have organized a special talk on inventions and innovation, flexible engineering materials. The talk will focus on how fibers can be modified to create various innovative products at scales varying from macro to micro and to nano level. I am extremely delighted to let you all know that today we have with us Dr. Neelima Jairat, Director General Science City, Dr. Kushal Sen, Professor, Department of Textile Technology, IIT Delhi, and Dr. Rajesh Grover, Director Science City. I very heartily welcome you all of you. Before I request Dr. Neelima Jairat to give inaugural remarks, I would like to share her brief profile. Dr. Jairat is PhD in botany with specialization in ecology and environmental science. Prior to joining PGSC, she was Executive Director, Punjab State Council for Science and Technology. She is also the founder member, Secretary, Punjab Biodiversity Board and Punjab State Innovation Council. In recognition of her services, she was awarded Punjab State Government Award from the Chief Minister of Punjab in 1999. Now, I request Dr. Neelima Jairat to give inaugural remarks. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak. And a very good afternoon, Dr. Sen, Dr. Grover, all the students and the teachers and the general public who has joined us today at this platform. Once again, namaste, sat sri akal. And it is indeed a great honor for us that we have with us one of the leading technologists of the country, Dr. Kushal Sen from IIT Bombay. As Mr. Ritesh informed us, the theme for National Technology Day is Science and Technology for a Sustainable Future. This theme is every year decided by the Technology Development Board of India, which lies in DST, Government of India. And every year we deliberate on a particular theme. We all are aware that we are into the 2020-2030 decade where we are trying to achieve sustainable development goals. There are 17 sustainable development goals which we have to achieve till 2030. We earlier had missed the Millennium Development Goals, but now I think we are more capable, we are more geared up. But if you look at the goals, if you look at what needs to be done, you would realize that every goal actually needs the inputs of scientists and technologists. Mr. Engineer Ritesh told us that why do we celebrate Technology Day? Because it was on this day that the Pokhran nuclear tests were marked. And it is indeed a great honor for the country that we are now in one of the elite nuclear countries. Whenever we talk about technology, we know that a sustainable future can be achieved only through science and technology, and only if students have the skill to use science and technology for the betterment of mankind. And when we talk of technology, we talk about our engineers, we talk about our technologists, and we also talk about the institutions which build these engineers and technologists. And when we talk about leading technological institutions of India, who has not heard the name of the Indian Institutes of Technology? Till a few years ago, we had only 7 IITs, but now we have many of them, and each one has its own strengths. Each one is doing wonderful work, and the product of these institutions has actually brought India onto the global frame. So without much ado, I would just like to hand over the platform to our speaker of the day, Dr. Kushal Sen. Dr. Sam, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I heartily welcome you to this platform. Thank you for accepting our invitation and for agreeing to speak to our students and teachers who would be very happy to learn about what you have to say. In fact, today morning, myself and Dr. Grover were discussing that the topic which you have chosen is so unique and so wonderful. So I was telling Dr. Grover that I need to learn about this topic. So I'm sure the students are also as eager as I am. And I'm sure Dr. Grover is also very eager to hear what you have to say. So a very warm welcome to you, sir. I also would like to welcome all the students, the young students who are here. Students, please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. The more questions you ask, I would feel that the more intelligent you are. So please feel free to ask questions. People like Dr. Sen, it's very difficult to find them on our platform. So please make best use of this opportunity. So I would like to, with nothing more to say, I would like to hand it back to Engineer Ritesh. Please, I would request you to formally introduce our speaker of the day so that, and then the platform is all his.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, before I invite Professor Sen to begin today's session, I am privileged to share his brief profile. Dr. Kushal Sen is professor in the Department of Textile Technology at IIT Delhi. He is an alumni of IIT Delhi, having obtained his BTech and PhD degree in the year 1977 and 1981, respectively. His current research areas of interest are electrically conducting textiles and textile chemical processing. He has interest in educational technology and is the National Video Coordinator of National Programming for Technology Enhanced Learning. He was instrumental in running a 24/7 educational channel, Eklavya, from IIT Delhi. He has served as head of the textile department, head of the educational technology, Dean Alumni Affairs, and Dean Faculty and Member Board of Governors, IIT Delhi. So over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be among you today. And I'm grateful that you could spare your platform for me. And I'm very happy to be here on this afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. Because we have limited time, so let's hope we enjoy the limited time that we have with us. I believe most of the students are from the textile background. Some of them maybe, are there some students from the other background also, like the other engineering?
Yes, some are there.
Some of them are there. So those who are from the textile, they will also have something interesting to, look at the discipline itself, how interesting it is and how we can contribute to this by our own might. And the people who have not been in the textile can also see that this is a very interesting discipline and very interesting materials that we handle. So without much delay, let me just share my screen with you. And I hope on the technology day, we don't have any flip-flops. I hope you are able to see.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So as we say that we're talking about innovation and invention, now I'm more used to looking at material which are flexible in the sense that we are looking at fibers, yarns, fabrics of various types, and what kind of products that we can make from them. And this has been very interesting. Actually, a large number of people who are obviously from textile understand this a little bit more. So I was looking at how we can make this product interesting and always feel that we are what we are. So before I begin, I think these times are the ones which has taught us a lot of things. So we salute all our leaders, our health workers, and all other workers who have been with us throughout this difficult time, serving the community, the country, in a manner which probably we may not have expected if this kind of a challenge was not given to us. So we are thankful to all the people who have been able to make sure that the country keeps running, the systems keep working, and so there we are. Thank you all. 11th May is a very interesting day, as we mentioned. It's a National Technology Day. May month itself, of course, Pokhran is what we remember. We also remember the May where the little boy and a fat boy from the Hiroshima and Nagasaki were also used at the which almost ensured the end of the Second World War. And of course, the person who was responsible for this type of a dream was none other than our previous president of India, Dr. Kalam. His statement, I'm sure most of you would have read, the dreams are not that you see when you sleep, but they are the ones which don't let you sleep. So what means he was a scientist, he was an engineer, and obviously talked about development, innovations, inventions all the time to make sure that the country becomes very, very self-sufficient and self-reliant. I had the opportunity of interacting with him in close quarters. We had a project which we were doing on the precursors to carbon fibers. We were trying to make precursors. There was a time when the country needed that also. So we were working at our labs, and it was a big project. So as a chairman of the monitoring committee, he used to come to the IIT Delhi and address us all. He was such an inspiring person that one would always want to do more after interacting with him. So he used to say, fly as much as you can. So somebody dreamt something called a space elevator. This is a dream which obviously has not been realized in the world till today. But somebody tried to talk about it when a material which is called the carbon nanotube was synthesized. This is in a way a flexible material. In a way, it's like a filament, but obviously the lengths are not very high, but the diameters are very, very small, like at the nano levels. But the interesting part of this particular material was, and is, that it's so strong and so light that actually, if you keep increasing, theoretically, if you keep increasing its length, you can actually go to a point from where if you want to have, let's say, a space satellite, and you hang something like a carbon nanotube, if you can make, it's still not been, we can't make so long tubes as well, it would not break. Normally any material that you take, there's something called a breaking length. You keep increasing the length of the material, it breaks on its own by its own weight. So this material is so strong that people thought that we can sometimes make an elevator instead of a satellite, and we can go there to the space. So young students, it's very important to derive inspiration from such type of people. There will be many more near you, around you, your teachers, scientists that you read about, the things that people are doing, that inspires. So as Dr. Kalam used to say, dream bigger. What you have is a limitation, is only your imagination. Of course, every time you want to succeed, you'll have to work very hard, but that's it. Why not? From the point of view of just understanding, simply what is an invention. Inventions don't happen every time. They happen sometimes, but the moment they happen, a series of inventions start around that particular thing. It's like there is a pond, you throw a stone, which is like an invention, and then you see a lot of ripples coming out of it. And all those ripples basically are something like various kinds of technologies, processes, products that are derived from that inventions. So inventions may be far, spaced in time, but one would find innovations using that kind of invention can happen anytime. And that is where the engineers come in. You see, the chip may be an invention, the electric bulb was an invention, the telephone itself, the World Wide Web was an invention. Yes, polymer also was in some way invention at some stage. But today, when you talk about polymers, every kind of things which have been made as a product are coming out of that. One of the interesting chemical groups, which is called the azo group, also in a way was an invention. But after that, so many things happen. You see, Staudinger, was awarded a Nobel Prize for postulating a concept of polymers. And before that, everybody thought there is a compound which could have a small molecular weight or a large molecular weight. The concept of macromolecule was there, but a polymer, that means you have one small compound which can be combined together to make a larger molecular weight material, which was the one which in a way was an invention and which has led to so many materials that have come up. In 1933, ICI had polymerized ethylene. That was the simplest polymer which was made, and today you can understand polyethylene is how an important material which is there, and this was one of the new materials. And based on this, so many things have come up, concept of polymers to polyethylene and beyond. And that was time when people started looking at, can we make something more, something different? Polyamides came in with scientists working in DuPont. Sometimes these things happen accidentally because they were wanting to make polyester with the concept of polymer, but they made polyamides before. A first synthetic dye was basically synthesized by Perking, almost like an accident, when he was a very young boy of only 18 years. So you can understand that all of you who are sitting are equally capable of doing things which anybody would have done before us. A simple process the textile people know, and some other people who use the material know, a process of mercerization, which also was a discovery in a way, and later on obviously became a process by which we could make the cotton fibers and cotton fabrics much more attractive. See this azo die, which you can appreciate. There is a group here. You can see that group. This is a group which does not occur in nature. So this is completely a synthetic group. And because of this, today, so many types of dyes, of various classes of dyes have been made, which are obviously used on textiles. And why I'm talking about this? That this is what is inspiring. You never know, because you are actually in the laboratory working on something which you believe is going to give certain kinds of results. Sometimes you get results which are different. And therefore, when you look into new types of systems coming up, which they keep coming, after that, the number of inventions that happen around that particular thing are tremendous. And so it should inspire us all and keep us motivated to keep working on the areas that we are working. Then in textiles, of course, the fashion, printing, dyeing, these are some of the very important things people know, for very kind of interesting product, which at least from the apparel point of view, you have a dye, then you dye the material. Sometimes people say after washing, it comes out. Sometimes it fades because of the light, the radiation that we have, the ultraviolet in the sunlight that we have can also fade certain material. But washing was one of the important things that the colors would come out. Then obviously people thought that can it be covalently reacted? So product processes were innovatively designed so that the dye can not only diffuse into the thing, but actually covalently react and obviously become fast. So these are some of the examples I was just trying to bring around that have motivated people to keep looking at new things every day. One word about engineering. All of you are studying in one or the other engineering and practicing, some of you. The more important thing to learn about is that engineering makes you a solution finder. You're not the problem finder. Obviously, if you don't know the problem, how can you have a solution? But engineers are supposed to find solutions. In some sense, they are creators of products, creators of processes, technology, and therefore, it's a very, very important class of students, class of learners. Now, this is not because we have been admitted to a certain kind of a degree, therefore we are engineers. No, you got to feel for it. You actually must believe that you are an engineer. And if you are an engineer, every time you see any problem, you would be thinking how to solve this. First understand and then solve this. Today, engineering term represents, creation and problem solving. Today people talk about social engineering also. Like you want to change the society, you want to make sure the lives of the people are better, not just by simple products, but anything that actually makes sure that you scientifically look at the problem and try to solve is called the engineering. And you should be proud that all of you are engineers. Start feeling proud of it. One important thing which the engineers learn, and you must also appreciate, they don't believe in something called black and white. It's not like a numerical problem which has been given and you solve at the end of the day. You are going to get some answer which will be either correct or false. But engineers find solutions which are in the gray zone. That means the same problem solved by a group of people, let's say in Delhi versus in Bombay versus in US versus in Africa, may not be same. And you will give different solutions to different problems, even same problem. because you will be looking at resources that are available to you. You will be looking at whether the technology that are available to you, the kind of people that you have, the environment that you have, all of that can actually give different solutions. And they are not wrong. They are solutions at a particular time, sometimes based on techno-economic feasibilities, sometimes based on the resources that we have. One can always say, well, there's a product which is available in a certain area, which is much better than my product. True, it's quite possible, but whatever a person or a group of people or industry designs, it is suitable to that particular environment. And therefore, we learn that we don't call somebody is a failed product, is something which is not right. What we say is, well, it is optimized. The properties have been optimized, the performance has been optimized based on whatever. So you set a benchmark, next time you can go better. So one thing which I like as all the students, that you be proud, because if you are proud of yourself, then only you do things with a lot of confidence. That you are an engineer, so that's the problem. That you are going to be creating new products. You will be providing solutions to various problems that you have. And also, you must try and appreciate your seniors who must have gone through the same process. They may be working in industry or any other institutions, and they are making their mark. That is what important, Also, when you see a product, don't just look at it, that this is a simple pen. It's cost maybe 10 rupees or maybe 30 rupees, depending upon what kind of material is this. But even a 10 rupee material product, which is called a pen, it works. It's got tip, it's got ink, it's got some viscosity, it's got certain colors, it's got holding system, it's got aesthetics. If somebody tells you that today I'm giving you all these 10 different ingredients and tomorrow you start making a pen in your lab, I'm sure you will appreciate it's not going to be easy to make a pen. That means even a smallest product that you see which has been engineered is a very interesting product. And therefore, anybody who must have designed it, anybody who must have made it, you should actually believe that you do respect. So it basically something which will give you satisfaction that you have been able to meet certain type of needs, smaller or bigger. That's not an issue. Cost comes down, as we know, the technology people, that if product requirement is high, the cost will keep coming down. But think of the people who thought about it and designed. So you say, make some noise. That means what? Why do I make a product? Something must be hurting you. Are you getting hurt by whatever is happening? Do you think you want a change? You say, yes. So how are you going to make a change? Yeah, well, I'll use science and technology to make a change. I will make sure that things happen. That is how we get, in a way, excited about things. We are supposed to be always finding ways in which we have some solution. Sometimes we can make a product, sometimes we only have ideas. It doesn't matter. But you should always be there sincerely looking at, can we make a change? So in the last 1 year, from the flexible point of view, people started talking about masks. I think there is hardly any Indian today who doesn't know what a mask is. But then PPE, which obviously was not something which was so known. Masks were known. But there were so many things which were already being used in the medical fraternity, which almost became a common term today. Not just that, so many startups came up. They looked at all kinds of things. What materials are available? How can we use them? What people want? How can we do it fast, quick? I know some of the companies, startup from my department itself, did come out with solutions, products, and they could sell it like an entrepreneur. a startup company. Why all this happens is because there is a need. So one has to have a need. Only then new products come. The need could be very, very critical, like the COVID times, very critical. So everybody works in different pace. Sometimes because of that, you compromise in the quality. Somebody said that, well, these people sweat so much. They sweat so much when they wear a PPE because the product which was made probably is not as much breathable as you would like. For example, you are wearing a t-shirt now or a shirt. You don't sweat. Why don't you sweat? Because this material is breathable. Because when we work, when we do any kind of things, some heat and moisture keeps coming out and they must be dissipated correctly. So we will talk about some of them. See, we have a limited amount of time. I'm just trying to motivate you to think how people were looking at ideas, and ideas themselves today are so important. The patenting systems can patent an idea also, not just a product, if you have one. Textile is a flexible material. Flexible means you can bend it, twist it. How much amount of twist that you do is tremendous. In general sense, they say from cradle to grave, you need a textile. Yes, it's important. That's one way of looking at it. What's so great about the fiber? Its fiber is very interesting material where the molecules, which obviously are polymeric molecules, now we know polymer was invented at some stage. Nature, of course, knew how to make polymers, but the people had not understood what the polymer was. The great thing about this is it's lightweight, and because it is oriented, molecules are oriented, and they are semi-crystalline, they perform much better than a large number of materials that one sees. You must understand, whatever material that you call about a garment that you wear, these products are, I consider, as most abused. I don't know how many number of times you wash them, dry them, iron them, and use them, keep using them over and over again, till either if you are fashion conscious, therefore you throw them off, or they actually are abraded and something wrong. I'm sure a large number of materials which we have would not have this type of flexibility. Is the flexibility of this material is what makes it more durable. And the density of the material makes it lighter. So people thought, can we make it lighter material, which are very strong, and so on and so forth. Once you understand what to do with a molecule, then you say, well, new products can be formed. People sometimes say life often hangs by the thread. All right? The thread is important. You see a person trying to do certain work around the building, yeah, this person is actually safe because of the thread, or sometimes we call them cords, or sometimes we call them ropes. Bungee jumping. Some of you may have been participating or may have had the experience of doing that. Basically, life depends on that. Once you jump, you expect that the thing is not going to break. It's very flexible, but it is not going to break. There's a lot of elasticity is there, a lot of recovery is there, and you expect it 100% that it's not going to break. Another group of people who got Nobel based on idea and then making a material. I'm talking about now polymers only. So polymers make fibers. One of the interesting polymer which was made, we said polyethylene, which of course was made, but then somebody says, well, let it go a little more complex material, monomer, which is propylene. They said, okay, we can make a polymer. They made a polymer. They found that the polymer that they were making was not as useful as they had thought it should be, which was the case with the polyethylene. So in fact, polypropylene was more difficult to make because they found there is a side group, right? And the side group does not allow the chains to come closer to each other. And so there is a problem. So the people talked about tacticity. These people got Nobel Prize just to make a catalyst which can govern on which side the side group will go. And if most of the side groups are on one side of the chain, then it was called isotactic. And suddenly you find this polymer could make very, 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 very strong, beautiful fibers, filaments. But if you had atactic, it was like a wax. That means you thought about a need and then you made certain things. And polypropylene became very interesting thing, strong melting points higher than obviously polyethylene. And the important thing was that they were so light. They were lighter than water from the density point of view. Well, of course, you know the textile materials, the polyesters, nylons, acrylics, they came into thing, but then people wanted to know more performances from any material that you make. The same material which was called polyethylene was a very weak material, and the bags, polyethylene bags that you use are not so strong from that point of view, but the moment you orient them, they become very, very strong. One of the fiber which is called spectra, and there are other similar fibers, which are called ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. You know, so when you talk about molecular weight of this type of a compound, you're looking at 3.5 to 7.5 million AMU, right? So long. It's very difficult to handle such material. They found a technology called the gel spinning technology to make them. So you have and find that if very simple molecule like polyethylene itself can be, if oriented very nicely, can become very, very strong material. When you say strong, it can be 15 times stronger than steel. Now, that's what makes the material very, very interesting. Then people found that, well, if you have linear material, very simple aliphatic chain like CH2, 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 versus if you have aromatic rings in between, you can change the properties very differently. Kevlars and Nomex, you know, you must have heard they are used in bulletproof jackets to, you know, resist the projectiles. Various technologies, dry technology, gel technology, dry jet wet spinning technology, all these things came because of the need which was felt. So when we talk about engineering, this is what it means, that you want very high performance fibers. They say, well, if you increase the molecular weight very large, yes, it can be. Then you suddenly find if you make large molecular weight, it's very difficult to handle this material. Then you find a technology called gel spinning, where even the materials can be kept drawn to a high ratio and almost made parallel to each other. So you have principles and then you have products. I had talked about carbon fiber. People have talked about carbon fibers also. It's a beautiful process. It's a beautiful process. The same acrylic material, which is called the pan polyacrylonitrile, a similar material, which is called the special acrylic fibers, can be made, which can be converted by simple processes of handling them at different temperatures, where either oxidation takes place or dehydrogenation takes place, or even denitration takes place. to make different ladder type of structures, which are so nice, but they would every time, if you say, well, one property has increased, the other property may go down. But the important thing is such material can withstand temperatures as high as 1500 degrees centigrade or even more. A material which, like a normal acrylic fiber, if you just take it to the flame, it will burn and you'll get a char or a bead in no time. But if you treat it very nicely, control the processes, then you can get a material which can be processed at above 1500 degrees or 2000 degrees to get another material without making it carbon dioxide. Glass. We are all familiar with glass. Can you bend or twist a glass rod? It's very difficult. But if you make it thinner and thinner, then it is possible. Today we make glass fabrics. You have glass wool, of course, which is used for insulation purposes and various kinds of applications. But glass fabrics also for fire retardant things, making houses where people use a lot of wood. Glass fiber fabrics are used. They can be twisted. They can be made into fabric. They can be texturized. You may try to find out where all we use the glass fabric. In India also, people make glass fabrics and tapes. Within the same kind of a thing, material, there's a material, it's a flexible material, highly engineered material. Today, we talk about optical fiber. Optical fibers came into existence quite a lot before, but today almost all along our roads and lanes and by-lanes, the companies are digging and putting optical fibers for communication purposes. It's a revolution. It's a revolution because normally when the material was going as an electrical current, electromagnetic interference was something which could happen anytime. But with optical systems, no such interference because you are talking about light. I've taken some examples where people thought that they need. You must have heard about viscose as a term. It's a viscose or viscose rayon. The original process which was designed to make fibers from bamboo or wood into nice, beautiful filaments, which were initially called artificial rayons or artificial silk. The process used a certain type of materials like CS2 was one of the compounds, where people found that, yeah, it is a very good way to make fiber, but pollution levels are high. So they want replacement. And they found a beautiful, not just one, there are many other solvents to dissolve cellulose and then make material which today, for example, is a beautiful material that is there. This is like a solvent. This solvent can dissolve cellulose, and then with simple process, viscose is chemistry remaining same of the fiber, which is still cellulose. You make different materials which are environment friendly, lyocell for that matter. Flexible systems and engineered materials are used in all kinds of systems, including automobiles. Some of things which called seat belts, heat noise control systems, vibration control systems, comfort. But for safety, today you can see beautiful material, an airbag with an impact. Such a beautiful material, beautiful engineered product. So you have a textile, we have a coated textile, which is almost rolled into a compartment, small compartment, but with an impact the reactions get triggered, the gases are formed, it immediately blows and saves somebody. And seatbelt, of course, you know. So flexible systems, if they were rigid, probably they would be behaving differently. But they are highly engineered products which are flexible. And with that, so much of protection is required. Ballistic protection is required for police, reinforcement systems, the defense, army, navy, and so on and so forth. Firefighters, suits which are very, very sophisticated. Extreme cold weather. You may be aware that in Siachen, our soldiers stay in an extreme cold weather. They need a breathable, protective clothing. And every time when you try to make any type of a material, you have to look at what can be the best to form. Everyone wants the material, the garment to be as safe as possible and as lightweight as possible. And therefore, you keep looking at which material to use, how many layers to use, where to use. It all comes in the design situation. And the nuclear, chemical, biological warfare resistant material also are part of this product design, something which is needed. And they're all highly engineered products. And if and when you get an opportunity to look at them, you will understand there is a lot of science which goes in, which not only has to look at the barrier properties, like you talked about mask, which was a simple way to do the barrier properties. But if there is an impact, people say, today people will talk about cut resistant material also, because of various reasons for safety. If somebody had talked about that, well, I've got some problem in my artery, which is running from my heart, for example, and I want to change it. So the only way was that you find some, and we still do it, from some vein in the leg or arm or anywhere else, and then take it and stitch it there. The people today have an opportunity that you have a complete textile material designed in the same way, as looking as natural as possible, which can be used as a replacement. So you have medical and healthcare materials, which are highly designed products, which are biocompatible, which are biodegradable. A simple thing called a suture, which people may not even look at it, but those who designed, they looked at the chemistry, they looked at the strength. So you want the material to be strong enough to stitch properly, but after 6-7 days, you want it to just go away while the tissues have taken done their job. You want it to go away and not interfere. So that's a very highly designed material. That means it's an engineered material. And extension today, for example, whether you are looking at scaffolds being made out of nanospinning, electrospinning materials, trying to make things. Silk was one of the natural products which was always biocompatible material. And now we are looking at various synthetic materials which are also doing exactly the similar job. But you are interested in making a tissue of a bone or a cartilage or a tendon or a ligament, skin. So you need different types of material which will allow all this to happen and should be flexible enough to do the job, depending upon what product they're looking at. Textile products are also known for comfort. Comfort means that if you make 3-layer, 4-layer material and sit in an environment, and if it doesn't breathe properly, it is not going to be comfortable. So one of the way of comfort is, if you sweat, you're wet, your moisture must come out and get away from your skin, so you feel comfortable. Heat must get out from around the microclimate that you have, you feel comfortable. One of the interesting material people made is 4DG is a term, was used to make fiber which has channels, synthetic fiber which has channels, so that the surface tension of the liquid takes it from one point to another point and transportation happens. One of the interesting products you must have seen or you can study more about it is waterproof breathable. I mean, waterproof breathable means this type of material, if you wear, you can go 15 meters underwater, 20 meters underwater, and still water will not seep inside. But if you work for half an hour, you will be sweating, but you don't feel sweat because it is breathable. So the beautiful structures that were made and are available. And I think the people at Siachen who are staying there definitely love these. He talked about this particular theme of this year is sustainability. So this is going to be the most important theme across the globe, everywhere. Whichever technology we talk about, people are talking about sustainability, circular economy, and making sure that a waste is not a waste. You keep using it. How to make sure that whatever you think you can't use it, you can use it further. And a lot of people have been working, of course, at the minimum level. We have what we call as the energy saving. So when you apply a chemical to a textile, whether it's a dye or a finish, what you do, you dissolve. Invariably, you want to dissolve in aqueous solution you want to make. So there's a lot of water or suspensions. But at the end of the day, it is the chemical which is important. Invariably, the chemical may be around 2 to 5%, rest is water. How to make sure that you apply less water and the same amount of chemical. So people have been looking at various technologies. Foam has been one of them, kiss roll, pad transfer, roboto-roll. Various technologies came up which would use less amount of water, because whenever you apply water, you have to evaporate. When you evaporate, you spend energy. So people said, how much energy can we save if instead of 95% water, you only had 35% water to be evaporated? People are today talking about harvesting, water harvesting. Like in the morning, sometimes you used to say there is a lot of moisture always in there. Can we condense it for use? The dew which you see on the grass obviously is condensed vapor that were there always in the environment. So nano nets, various kinds of structures making so they attract the water, allow it to settle down, and then you can, by a drip technology, collect them. They are products, engineered products, ideas. Some of them are commercially successful, some of them may be still at the lab scale. The important thing about going at a nano level is also some inspiration people get from the nature. And you get inspired by the nature, and then you do something to do the certain things similar or maybe better sometimes, like this making of a carbon nanotube or the buckyball. So one of the things which people thought the nano technology or nano size can help was what we saw at what we call lotus leaf effect. That you put water on a lotus leaf, it doesn't really think, it actually collects. So can we make textiles like this? They say yes, you can make by treating it at a nano level. Various types of compounds can be used, and they would ensure that even a droplet of water is larger size and just keeps rolling over, and it doesn't get absorbed whenever you need it. Soil release agents, everybody is interested if your material, textiles get soiled by particularly oily soils, they should be able to be removed. And so fluorochemicals were something which became important. When the fluorochemicals came, they were making sure that water is repelled. Oil is repelled, like you have Teflon, Teflon coated utensils that you use. But the more important thing is, if something actually has gone wrong, it is soiled, the water itself does not go there, so how will it clean it? If it can't go itself, the aqua solution doesn't go, so how will it clean? They said, well, we can design chemicals which can be called dual actions. So when they are dry, they behave differently. When you put them in water, they behave differently, and they are good, both the oil resistant, soil resistant, as well as soil release. Plasma was another technology which has been now in vogue for quite some time. Particularly atmospheric plasma, where you do not require closed chambers and vacuum. Shrink resist wool, people have produced that. Using atmospheric plasma also, you can achieve the similar kind of roles by using certain compounds which are like this. Along with the plasma, you can make super hydrophobic surfaces where everything will roll down. But you can use the same plasma, but not using other compounds. You can make same surface very hydrophilic also, where otherwise it was difficult for it to absorb, and you can do the reverse. We would always love that we don't have to wash our clothes ever. It automatically gets cleaned. Nothing sticks to it because you do something. And then if something sticks, some stain comes, it can be destroyed. So people have been looking at TiO2 based systems, nano systems, which could be photocatalytic and then can destroy any kind of a colored compound. Antimicrobial became very, very important, and the nano silver particles were very important. The department, for example, had patented technology called Silver Shield, which is being used by many companies now in their garments, which is again using a nanotechnology. Microencapsulation was not unknown to people. Some people who had seen carbonless copy paper, where you just press and you see the color, or thermal paper for inkjet printing, inkjet thermal paper, thermal printing, that by heat the dye would come out. So they were all encapsulated in certain things. But today you're looking at fragrances, insect repellents, antimicrobials, phase change material, and antibiotics, hormones, and other drugs which can be encapsulated and applied onto a textile or any other thing which you believe is responsible, like a patch on a which is used on a wound, for that matter, could have all these kind of things. Otherwise, they are fine. The chemicals are entrapped, and they become active only when either you have a chemical or a thermal or a mechanical input. You must have seen some of these sweaters. People have the acrylic sweaters. The technology is fantastic. You make high bulk yarn. But of course, the fiber helped also. But people understood as to why this happened, why it happened. Mixing shrinkable, non-shrinkable components and making a yarn out of this and giving a heat, suddenly it bulks, right? But we don't have in the market polyester high bulk yarns. But acrylic high bulk yarns are available, all right? And these are because they have this property of what we call as a freezing the amorphous orientation, that without crystallization. And very interestingly, some people got Nobel Prize for making a conducting polymer. inherently conducting polymers are called the ICPs. And then we came into flexible electronics, of course. You will probably see a lot of flexible electronics getting into play in the next decade. But more important is, most of the fibers that we know were always non-conductors. But we got new material called the ICP. This you can call as an invention, and they got Nobel for that. Try to find out who were there. So you can have a resistance like a thing, which and you connect it and suddenly find that, yeah, it works. It can heat, it can glow, it can do any other thing, depending upon what have you used. Let me see if it is possible for you to see a small film. Are you able to see something appearing on the screen?
No, sir.
An interesting application is electromagnetic interference.
Listen to audio.
View this.
You're not able to see, hear the audio?
We are able to hear the audio, sir. And there is no video.
One can connect with the mobile phone when it is outside the pouch, but not when inside.
This number is not reachable.
That means you
Please
can
try
make
again
from textiles a pouch which will
Fun.
make sure
Positive.
your mobile is not hurt.
On serious note, this could be very useful for defense forces. Spread when you need, roll when you don't.
So electromagnetic shielding. You can use them
Switch
as
on
a
power
heated for
just at
generating
6
heat
volts.
also.
And for only 2 minutes. Watch the temperature rise from 29 degrees to 40 degrees Celsius. And it keeps rising. Sure, you need controls. The fabric has enough electrical conductivity to light a CFL bulb.
So it has conductivity. A lot of current can be passed through this textile.
No doubt.
Low
The
current
flexible
also.
electronic circuits can be realized too.
They can be used as gas
Simple
sensors
strand
also.
of electrically conducting yarn.
So whether you have ammonia, for
When
example,
exposed to ammonia, undergoes tremendous change in resistance,
and it's
which is
reversible.
reversed if you expose to air. And thus, one can conceive a gas sensor. Such yarns also demonstrate electromagnetic properties. Note the deflection as the circuit is powered on.
That's very interesting. Actually, the material,
Maybe sometime we will
it's a
see
polyester
a
which has been
flexi
treated
motor
in a different
in
way
future.
with an ICP.
These days,
See, you
most
have touch
devices
phones,
are
right?
based on capacitive touch sensors.
If you have a normal
In
glove,
printers,
it
with
won't
gloves
work.
on, the device doesn't work. But you have the glove with a Midas touch. It works.
So if you have a
See
conducting
that?
material, a glove, you can work in a very highly in a cold climate also in the same way as
With
you're
an
working otherwise.
increase or decrease in extension of an electrically conducting yarn, the resistance changes. Is it not the characteristic of a sensor? It is.
So there we are. So now I believe that as an individual, as a student, when you are in the class, when you go and do the job after graduation, you try to say, become an entrepreneur if it is possible. Entrepreneurs always are natural innovators, whether it's a process, product, or even transactions that we do. There's a lot of things that happen. In case there is difficulty, sometimes you have to do a job. We like you to be an intrapreneur, so that within the group, within the organization, you actually think differently all the time. So in general, we like you to look broader, look closer, where are the problems, and think young. Some of us who have spent a lot of time probably have been programmed to think differently. Younger people can become much better entrepreneurs simply because they are not programmed. They can think differently. And that's a very, very important thing for innovations. Thank you very much. And this is where I will like to stop. And yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was really, sir, a very wonderful presentation, sir. Now
So-
I request the participants to ask the questions. They can raise their hand one by one, and I will unmute them. Yeah, Arshdeep Singh.
Hello, Arshdeep.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
I am
afternoon.
a student of Bimnanki University College, Mithida.
Yeah.
And I will put first question is the most everything ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਇਨਕਰੀਜ਼ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੀ ਪਿਊਪਲਸ ਡੈਥ ਰੇਟ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਘਟਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਤੇ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਮੇਰਾ ਇਹ ਵਾ ਕਿ ਬਰਡਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਘਟ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਧਰਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵਧਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਕੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਦੋ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਹੈ ਸਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ
I'm not really understood the question. Can you, Ritesh, tell me if you've...
Arshdeep, can you please repeat in Hindi?
Yes, sir. Sir, ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਊਪਲਸ ਬਹੁਤ ਘਟ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ COVID-19 ਦਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕੀ ਕੋਈ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਵਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ
ਕੀ ਘਟ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ
ਪਿਊਪਲਸ ਡੈਥ ਰੇਟ ਇਨਕਰੀਜ਼ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ
Okay. All right, that is one important. And the second question?
And the second question is the births will increase death rate and this death rate is decreasing. How will start?
Okay. So the most important material that we have today to save ourselves from this pandemic has been the simplest and the cheapest material called the mask. And everything will go down. I think we got into trouble in a second wave simply because we thought that we are out of this pandemic and we can take everything lightly. But we must realize all over the world, wherever people become lax, then this infection will come. So simplest way is, as the government also is saying, mask yourself, clean yourself all the time, stay away from the crowd, and whenever possible, take your jabs. This will definitely reduce infection, because there is something called R value. To reduce the R value, most of us must become immune to this. And to do this, the only way that we have is first protect, which is easy, by using a simple material. Now people talk about double masking. Sure, you can do whenever you're in a crowded place, but try and avoid. Look, fortunately, we have become very efficient in talking remotely, learning remotely. All your classes you must have had remotely. Of course, all of us learned as to how to become more effective, but we can become more and more effective by looking at possible technologies that we have and not be a part of, let's say, the crowd till the time, let's say 60 to 70% people get into the level, what we call as a herd immunity level, and then this growth of the virus is going to be reduced. I think that is what I'm saying from the textile point of view. From your point of view, the cheapest is mask. If it is possible, use disposable things. If not, then of course you can think of washing them. But sometimes it is possible that the kind of mask that you think has a coating and you wash it rigorously, it might be that the coating has gone off, not intact the way it was. So the so-called surgical mask can be something which can be used and destroyed. You can save yourself. And of course, get your injections whenever it's possible, Arshdeep.
Thank you, sir. So next is Gurpreet Singh.
Hello, Gurpreet. You can unmute, Gurpreet.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
Am I
afternoon.
audible to you?
Yeah,
Sir,
yeah.
actually, I have a question regarding the PPEs.
Okay.
Gurpreet, again you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir. My question is regarding the PPEs.
Yeah.
Normally, sir, PPEs are using are not proper breathable. Even the doctors are working for 7 to 8 hours continuously in hospitals. Or India climate is very not favorable for PPEs. So the thing is in mind, can we use a small detachable cooler with specific filters, which we can replace?
I'm sure it's a beautiful idea. You must not give it up. There was a time when, remember there was a Kuwait war, you know, when we had the war in Kuwait, and then the whole the American army went in, and they had to remain in desert. The temperatures obviously were very, very high, you know. They had made sure their chocolates don't melt while they're carrying with them. So it is possible. You look at the space suit, you know, space suit.
Yes,
It's got
sir.
everything. It's a complete microclimate in itself. The temperature, the moisture, and all kinds of things. So it is possible to do it. As the question is whether the product that finally you make is acceptable to the user. You know, a product and a consumer, they are two very important things. You know, so we keep looking at a consumer, like you said. The PPE, if it is not made properly, it is going to be like a raincoat.
Right.
Like, but if you make with a breathable material, which breathes, the cost will increase.
Yes.
You know, but the cost will increase. And if one obviously believes that exposing it to certain amount of either alcohol vapors or UV radiations, you can clean the material after use, okay? And then you can reuse it, you know? So the cost has to be the one which is there. And whenever you use something like an air conditioning environment, and if you want to create that with small batteries and so on and so forth, it'll also be adding to the cost. And this is like a product design. So I'll consider that you do it whenever you get a chance to look at it. you should not give it up. One never knows which product actually becomes the final one.
Right.
It's good that you're thinking.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir.
But there is one question in the chat box. Anuradha Admira, she's asking about something about luminescent textile.
Right. So luminescent textiles means that basically it is the dye. All right. So you have, dyes which are luminescent, and depending upon what you want to do, you can do. Today we are looking at absolute flexible films. All right. Flexible films which are conducting, and they actually behave like any other material, transparent as well as that. So today your mobile phones, the glass that you have on the top, the film that you have behind, are very different than what they used to be, let's say 20 years back. So materials have changed. The way the diodes are going to be made are going to be very, very different. And so we are looking at a whole lot of different products going to come out of this conducting polymers. They're going to be flexible. I mean, Sony had once, I'm talking about 10 years before, in one of the things is shown a display unit which could be rolled completely, right? Completely rolled display unit, which you take it anywhere, open it, it starts working. And so the flexible systems are going to be part of things. Flexible electronics are going to be there. The question is, when you make a product, if it is very, very critical to life, the cost is not going to be important. If it is only for fashion purposes and things like that, people will say, let it be as cheap as possible.
In polymer, can we mix it and then make a yarn or something out of luminance?
Yeah, of course. The whole textile itself, thermochromic, photochromic dyes are available. You must have seen sometimes, mugs, tea cup or coffee mugs, which are coated with chemical dyes, thermosensitive dyes. When you pour a cup of the coffee in the thing, it becomes warm and you see change of color. So there are t-shirts people sometimes make that when you go in the sun, it looks different, design looks different. When you come to the colder environment in a room, the design looks very different. So sometimes it is for fun, sometimes it could be functional. If it is functional, then people will pay much more. If it is fashion, sometimes people pay a good amount of money for fashion as well.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Sunil Sani. Kindly unmute.
Sunil.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Sunil.
Sir, please put some light on the process of composite formation and the things that should we take in account while producing such material, or that should we take care of? Right.
Why did somebody want to go for composites? Obviously, one of the important things is that you want to reduce weight, all right, and retain modulus and tensile properties, right? You want them to behave as strong as any other material. For example, you want to replace steel with a composite material. Let's say tomorrow people will be thinking of 50% of the car, maybe just a composite material, including the wheel base. So the important thing obviously is a fiber, which is a textile material. Some of the composites which are there are glass fiber reinforced composites like helmets you wear every day. They are there. People are looking at composites which are in civil engineering applications where cement and fiber are mixed to make sure. One of the most important thing is the crack propagation. The composites help to reduce the propagation of crack because the fiber in between comes and the crack is stopped there. Now, the important thing obviously is compatibility. So there is a matrix and there is a reinforcement material called a fiber. They must be compatible in a way. Sometimes you have a very nice, beautiful fiber and the polymer in which you want to make, they are not themselves together compatible. They don't like each other. And compatibility means they don't like each other. So they like to separate. They can, at the interface, they may like to separate. Then the composite is not going to be good. So you have what we call as resins, which are coated, which make sure that the fiber and the matrix come into picture through the resin.
Yes,
And
sir.
when you have that kind of a linkage, it becomes a much better comparison. So you have to have minimum 3 components, obviously. One of them is a fiber, which is a reinforcement material, the matrix, which is obviously making a structure, whole of it, could be a polymer. And today we are talking about, single polymer composites, like the fiber also is polypropylene and the matrix also is a polypropylene. But one is fiber, the other is matrix. Based on the molecular weight, the tensile strengths, and so on and so forth, people work around. And I think another topic which is becoming very, very important is the biodegradable composites. Like the fiber also is degradable, as well as the matrix also is degradable, but not so soon, after a certain time. Like you make temporary structures, and after 3 months, you don't really have to worry as to what has happened to them. And then they can degrade and decompose in a manner which doesn't really, is not bad to the environment. Otherwise, you have to wrap it up and take it away. And
Okay,
flexible
thank you.
composites also, like your tire, tire is a flexible composite, right? It is the strength in a tire is coming only from textile. The textile means it could be a polyester, it could be a nylon, it could be rayon, it could also be, Kevlar, depends on what kind of thing they're looking at.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
There is one question in the chat box from Chetendra Kumar. I think all the time we use mask, our oxygen consumption is reduced because we exhale CO2 and again inhale CO2. Sir, as per your point of view, which type of mask is best among all? Like there are many type of masks are available in the market, like surgical mask and N95 mask with mask with the valve.
So my one thing will be, for a normal citizen, I will consider the N95 is not required, unless and until you are the frontline worker, you are in the hospital. There, the load of the virus is much, much larger. Then some of these things will be nice. I think some of the doctors are told also that mask with a valve is maybe good for you for breathing, but if you are basically let's say infected, then you are only spreading the infection through the valve itself. But that's what it is, So you go for, I will consider surgical or coated textile mask, partly coated, so that you can breathe. If you take it is getting used to this. Initially, when we started using the mask, I think all of us were troubled. Today, theoretically, if I have to be outside for 3 hours, I can be in the mask and not really feel too bad. We are getting used to, because when you exhale quite a lot, there will be something from the sides will be also coming out, because of the vapor pressure, it will come out. And if it's a deep breathing kind of environment, so you are not necessarily going to be breathing in the carbon dioxide back. Otherwise life would have been very different. So obviously you're not wearing a polythene bag. You can think of that if you wear a polythene bag and the mask that you're wearing, like a surgical one, look at the comfort level. Although from virus, it can protect you, polythene bag, because it doesn't allow any diffusion. But we are interested both in both the things. Like it should be under a certain amount of pressure, it should be able to breathe out. Now, how much filtration has to be done? The more you filter, that means you make more and more nano size systems. You have 3 layers, 4 layers of non-wovens, and then you coat with a breathable coating. What will happen is the amount of pressure required for this normal breathing will keep on increasing. So most probably, as far as I am concerned, as a normal citizen, I will believe that little cloth mask with a bit of a coating. Sometimes the cloth masks are coming with a non-woven in between as a layer. They are good enough as long as you are able to breathe. And it's something in the mental things also, no? The mind has to be told that I'm okay with this. And once you get used to this, you suddenly find, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Like, you know, otherwise initially it started with aesthetic. How do I look? I look pretty bad. How can I go from, and then you say, well, breathing is difficult. Maybe if some people have breathing difficulties, then they will have to probably be more indoors, no? But a normal person who is normally otherwise fine, this is quite fine, a bit of a surgical mask, and in case you're really going into a real crowded place, maybe a cloth mask on top of that surgical mask can be a savior. 90% plus, 95% plus.
Any more queries?
There was this girl, Jaspreet Atwal, who had, I don't know whether she's a girl or a boy, Jaspreet could be anybody, who had raised hand earlier.
Jaspreet, are you there?
Can we make, Vishal Sharma has a question, can we make masks of stuff that can be of negative charge that helps?
We were looking at the possibility. I think some people made masks which had silver coating on the top. All right. So silver nano definitely was known for antimicrobial kind of a thing. It wasn't tested for antiviral, but as it appears that the structure definitely it can break, so people can use that. Negative charge normally, if environment is there, yes, people have been now promoting some of the negative charge generators in the house, which can keep on generating the negative charges, and you say the virus, if it is there, probably will get attracted. But that's, you can do. I mean, there are crystals of various types which by kind of a compression techniques and so on and so forth do generate negative charge also. But for me, at the moment, particularly for this virus, it's complex and becomes very difficult if it's gone in. But if it is protected and you remain protected, then it's all right. Let us not get into that situation where everything becomes tough for us to appreciate. Like you start putting negative charger systems in all rooms in the house and feel comfortable, but when we go out, we don't put a mask. I think that will be a difficult thing. And obviously, outside the house, there's no question of negative charges. And if you put some crystals on the top of the mask, which you believe that by moving around or by a little bit this, they will generate negative charge. It can be tried, but I don't think that's a good solution. But people have made masks with silver nanoparticles in them on the surface, top surface.
Moving further, now I request Director Science City, Dr. Rajesh Grover, to pose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ritesh. I hope I am audible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and well, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks at the occasion. And at the outset, our heartfelt thanks to Professor Kushal Sen from Department of Textile Technology at IIT Delhi for joining us this afternoon and delivering an enlightening talk on the innovations and inventions, flexible engineering materials at the occasion of this National Technology Day 2021. So you talked about how fibers are engineered to produce highly attractive and create numerous useful innovative products owing to possession of the unique characteristics that can be modified to introduce various functional properties. Sir, you gave a wonderful talk, and we are really grateful to you for a very, very interesting talk. I must say personally, it was really knowledgeable for me, and we gained a lot. And once again, thank you for sparing your valuable time. I also take this opportunity to extend our gratefulness to our worthy Director General, Dr. Mrs. Neelima Jareth, for her presence and words of wisdom at the occasion. And I would also like to place on record my sincere appreciation for all my colleagues at PGSC for extending their cooperation to organize this webinar and make it a success. And I would also like to express my sincere thanks to all our participants, especially the students from engineering and polytechnics, for joining at this platform and interacting with the expert. Thank you all. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be among you, and particularly with the students also. And I hope some of you actually will be great innovators, and your products we would like to see in the market for the benefit of the society.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a great honor having you.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.